I politely told my neighbor I couldn't watch her kids every afternoon as a favor. That week, my windows were egged and her child told mine, "Your mom's going to jail." I ignored it until CPS came with a report accusing me of neglect. I knew she filed it. When I hacked into my doorbell camera archive, the clip from 3 days before showed her whispering to her son while pointing at my house, and what he said next. I never thought saying no could destroy someone's life. It started out simple. I live in Spokane, Washington, in a small house I bought after my divorce. It's not fancy, but it's mine. I live here with my son, Caleb. He's 9. Quiet kid, kind, a little sensitive. We'd lived here about a year when Michelle moved in next door. She was a single mom with 3 boys, all under 10. The kind of kids that yell from the minute the sun comes up, barefoot in the yard, wrestling in the street. The kind of kids who break things and lie about it. Michelle seemed tired. Always in leggings, always yelling at someone. At first, I felt sorry for her. I get it. Life can be hard. I tried to be friendly. We'd wave from the driveway, sometimes chat. Nothing deep. Then she asked me for a favor. One afternoon, she knocked and said, "Hey, I've got a quick thing. Can you watch the boys for a bit while I go to urgent care?" She looked stressed, so I said okay. Caleb and I weren't busy. She came back 3 hours later. In that time, her boys destroyed my living room. Poured a box of cereal on the couch. One of them tried to put a fork in the outlet. Caleb hid in his room. When she returned, I mentioned the mess. She laughed. "Oh, boys, right?" No apology. Just left. I told myself it was a one-time thing. I was wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, she asked 4 more times. Always last minute. Always acted like it was no big deal. She'd drop them off and vanish. Once I saw her at a nail salon while I was out running errands. Her kids were at my place at the time. That's when I started saying no. The first time I refused, she gave me a tight smile and said, "Really? You're home anyway, though." I said, "I've got work and my own kid. I just can't." She didn't respond. Just turned and walked off. That was the moment everything shifted. The next morning, I found eggs splattered across my living room windows. It was a mess. Raw yolk dripping down the glass. Caleb's bike, which he parks by the porch, had one tire slashed and the handlebar bent. No note. No witnesses. I didn't see who did it, but I had a feeling. I cleaned it up quietly. I didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. But Caleb came home from school 2 days later, quiet and pale. I asked him what happened. He didn't want to tell me at first. Eventually he said, "Tyler said you're going to jail soon." I froze. "Who's Tyler?" "Michelle's son. He said his mom told him you're bad and that you'll go to jail. He said CPS is gonna take me away." That night I couldn't sleep. I tried to tell myself it was just kid talk. Maybe a misunderstanding. But something didn't feel right. I knew Michelle was mad that I stopped helping. She'd give me these nasty looks in passing, her fake smile was gone. 3 days later, CPS came. I was on a Zoom call for work when the doorbell rang. A woman introduced herself as Karen from Child Protective Services. My heart stopped. I let her in. She said they got a report of possible neglect. Neglect? She walked through my house. Looked in the fridge, opened closets. She asked Caleb questions like, "Does your mom feed you dinner, and do you feel safe at home?" I wanted to throw up. She said they'd follow up. If the complaint was unfounded, it would be closed. After she left, I sat on the couch and cried for 2 hours. I called my sister. She was furious. "That woman's setting you up," she said. "This is serious, Rachel." That's when I remembered the doorbell camera. I hadn't checked it in weeks. I opened the app and started going through the clips, starting with the day Caleb told me what Tyler said. And there it was. Michelle was standing on the sidewalk, talking to Tyler. She bent down, pointed at my house. The mic barely picked up what she whispered, but Tyler's response was clear as day. So if you tell them, she'll go to jail? Michelle smiled. I felt sick. It was like watching someone plan a hit. I recorded the clip and saved it. Then I started documenting everything. I printed screenshots, started a file. I saved every text message from Michelle from the last 2 months, including the ones asking me to just do her a solid by watching the boys again. I called CPS and asked about the case. They said the report was anonymous. Of course it was. But I asked how to report a false claim. The woman on the line sounded cautious, but said if I had evidence, I could submit it with a formal complaint. I started collecting neighbor stories. Turns out, Michelle had pissed off a lot of people. One woman, Carla, said Michelle borrowed $200 and never paid it back. Another neighbor said Michelle threatened to call animal control when their dog barked too much. A third said Michelle's kids walked into her backyard and broke a garden gnome. No one liked her. But no one wanted to go against her either. She made trouble for fun. I decided I wasn't going to sit back. I made a Reddit post on the Spokane subreddit, titled, "Can a neighbor use CPS to get revenge?" I uploaded a blurred version of the Ring video and explained what happened. I didn't use names. But people figured it out fast. It blew up. People commented, messaged me, even emailed. One person said Michelle used to live in their apartment building. Said she made fake CPS calls there too. Said she always blamed others when her kids got in trouble. I printed everything and sent it all to CPS, along with my own formal complaint. Then I called a lawyer. Not to sue. Not yet. Just to protect myself. After all that, I called Michelle. I kept it short. Cold. I know what you did, I said. I have it on camera. I've submitted it to CPS. And I shared it with our neighbors. If you try anything else, I'll go public with everything. She didn't say a word. Just hung up. But she knew. The next day, she was gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway. For 3 days, I didn't see her. Then she came back. No more fake smiles. She avoided me. She didn't even yell at her kids outside anymore. It was like someone flipped a switch. 2 weeks later, the sheriff knocked on her door. When the sheriff knocked on Michelle's door, I stood behind my blinds and watched. He handed her something, looked like a folder or paperwork. She didn't invite him in. She just stood there, arms crossed, face hard. They talked for maybe 2 minutes. Then he left. She slammed the door. That night, her porch light stayed off. A few days later, I got a call from CPS. The woman on the line sounded different. Professional, but cautious. "We've reviewed the materials you submitted," she said. "And we're now looking into the possibility that the original report was filed with malicious intent." I asked what that meant. She said she couldn't go into details. But that I could consider the case against me closed. No apology. Just that. But it was something. I should have felt relief. But I didn't. Because I knew Michelle wasn't done. She stopped looking at me when we crossed paths. Didn't wave. Didn't yell at her kids when they threw balls into my yard. But that silence? It felt like pressure building under a lid. I knew she was the type who couldn't let things go. I just didn't know how far she'd go next. One evening, Caleb came home from school, threw his backpack on the floor, and said, "Mom, is it true you sell drugs?" I dropped the spoon I was stirring dinner with. "What?" He looked nervous. "Tyler told the class you're going to jail because you sell drugs and keep them in your closet." I saw red. I called the school the next morning. They said Tyler had been warned before about making up stories. But they hadn't told Michelle. I asked them not to yet. Because I had a plan. I went back to Reddit. I posted another update. This time, I asked if anyone in Spokane had been falsely reported to CPS in the past year. I got 5 messages. 2 were trolls. But 3 were real. And all 3 said the same thing, Michelle. One was a woman named Jenny, who lived 3 streets down. She said Michelle accused her of neglecting her autistic son because he had meltdowns in public. Another woman said Michelle reported her for having unsafe conditions because her baby sometimes cried on the porch swing while she watered her plants. Neither of them had proof at the time. Their cases were dropped. But the trauma stayed. I asked if they'd be willing to talk to my lawyer. They said yes. That's when I decided to go all in. I gave my lawyer everything, every report, every message, the ring footage, the testimonies. He said, "She's not just annoying. She's dangerous. This is harassment. And if we push, it could become criminal." We filed a civil harassment complaint against her, and my lawyer contacted the sheriff's office directly about the possibility of coordinated false reports. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a detective. He wanted to come by and ask a few questions. He showed up in a plain car, regular clothes, not flashy. Asked me how long I'd lived here. Then asked to see the ring video. I played it for him. He leaned in when Tyler said the line. "So if you tell them, she'll go to jail?" The detective nodded slowly. "Can I get a copy of that?" He was polite. Calm. But I could tell, something about it bothered him. Then he asked, "Has your son had any other issues with the boy, or her?" I told him about the drug accusation. I told him about Caleb being afraid to go outside. The detective's mouth tightened. "You're not the first neighbor I've talked to about her," he said. "We've had reports from others. Nothing stuck. But with your footage, it might change things." After he left, I felt shaky. Not scared, just tired. I wanted this to end. But Michelle wasn't done. That weekend, I caught her in my backyard. It was around 9 p.m. I was putting something in the trash and heard a rustle behind the fence. I stepped out with my phone flashlight, and there she was, crouched by the bushes, holding something. She bolted when the light hit her. I didn't chase. I didn't yell. I went back inside, locked the doors, and called the police. When they arrived, they didn't find her. But they found what she dropped. A bag. Inside were raw chicken pieces, soaked in something. The officer said, "Looks like she was trying to poison your dog." We don't have a dog. But my neighbor across the street does, a golden retriever named Tilly that always runs to the fence when someone's outside. I told the cop. He sighed and said, "We'll add this to the record." I didn't sleep that night. Caleb slept in my bed. The fear was real now. This wasn't petty anymore. It was dangerous. Then things turned. Because someone else came forward. The day after Michelle tried sneaking into my backyard with that bag of raw chicken, things escalated fast. The police added the incident to her growing case file. They told me to keep my cameras running at all times, and to let Caleb sleep in my room for a while, just to be safe. But then came the twist I didn't expect. A man showed up at my door. He looked nervous, holding a manila folder and a phone. I cracked the door but kept the latch on. "Hi," he said. "I'm looking for Rachel. Are you her?" I nodded, unsure. "I'm Jason," he said. "I'm Michelle's ex. The kid's dad." I didn't know what to say. He sighed. "I saw your Reddit post. A coworker recognized her in the video, even with the face blurred. I've been fighting her for custody for over a year. I've never seen proof, until now." I let him in. He laid it all out. Michelle had full custody on paper, but he'd been documenting incidents quietly, missed pickups, lies, the way the kids talked about things they shouldn't understand. He said Tyler once told a teacher that Mom says if we get taken away, we'll never see Dad again. Jason had court in 2 weeks. He asked if I'd be willing to testify. I said yes. My lawyer called me the next day and said, "Good. That's your bulletproof vest." Over the next 2 weeks, more neighbors came forward. Someone found a Facebook group post Michelle made months back, where she said, "Some people deserve to have their kids taken away if they won't help their neighbors." Just saying. It wasn't direct. But it added fuel. Meanwhile, Michelle was quiet. Too quiet. Then, one day, an SUV pulled into her driveway. 2 CPS agents and a sheriff's deputy stepped out. I watched from my kitchen window, heart pounding. Michelle came to the door. They didn't ask, they told her to step outside. And when she did, they walked in. 20 minutes later, they came out with her kids. They didn't cry. They didn't fight. Tyler held the youngest one's hand like he was used to this. Michelle screamed. She yelled at the agents, at the sky, at me. She saw me watching through the curtain and pointed. "You did this. You evil bitch." She had no idea. I hadn't even sent the final piece yet. The next day, I filed for a restraining order. It was granted immediately. Emergency status, based on trespassing, vandalism, and attempted poisoning. I also submitted all the evidence to the district attorney's office, who confirmed they were considering charges for false reporting, harassment, and child endangerment. A week later, Jason texted me. He got full custody. Michelle didn't even show up in court. Apparently, she skipped town. Her landlord confirmed she broke the lease, left behind trash, broken furniture, and a wall full of holes. Said she left a note blaming a witch next door for ruining her life. I never saw her again. But a few weeks after she vanished, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a folded sheet of notebook paper. It said, "You should have just helped me." I burned it. Caleb's safe now. He goes outside without looking over his shoulder. His bike's fine, his windows are clear, and no one at school whispers about his mom anymore. But I keep that Ring footage backed up in 3 places. Because you never know who your neighbors really are. And if they come for you, be ready to finish it.